Hey guys, Scruffy self-quarantine and Killer Pigeon here, still trying to resist the temptation to shave my entire head bald because I can't get to a hairdresser while having Britney Spears soundtracks playing in the background. Here for another one of these daily vlogs, and today we're talking about something that seems to be flaring up a little bit on Twitter, seems to be popular opinions flying around about the 9 to 5 life versus esports and how esports should be 9 to 5 because you're overworking your work. First of all, get a reality check. 9 to 5 jobs are rarely ever truly 9 to 5 jobs these days. Yes, you may have things such as retail. Yes, you may have certain jobs that fully adhere to the 9 to 5, although in many cases it can be tougher to find job prospects or find opportunities for growth or take love in the job you do. And we'll get into that in more detail. But let's line up some things about the bracket of 9 to 5 first of all. For one thing, plenty of jobs are not 9 to 5 because you spend a crap ton of time in your spare time being expected to hone and practice skills which will improve your value to the company when you go to work. I have experienced this firsthand because I came from a software dev background, but I'm not just the only one. If you think about arts backgrounds, if you think about anything in social media, like all these type of things expect you to do the research in your spare time. They don't want you to come into the office or into the wherever the hell you are and be researching on their hours. That's not how it works. So let's just get that out of your mind first of all. Another thing, overtime is a thing. Happens a lot. In fact, a lot of contracts say that you have to do it. And in fact, a lot of contracts limit the amount of value you get out of overtime. I think the job I had was saying something along the lines of 1.5 times pay. Ooh. And you don't have a choice. Usually it's a case of, hey, you have to do this. Now, there are, of course, retail jobs, for example, where it's given out and people take it as they please. But I would say when people get into careers, when we talk about people moving from just the kind of I'm moving through jobs until they find something that they want to do and they commit to, when they find something they want to commit to, the hours that they're investing in it go way above 8 hours a day and definitely above 40 hours in a week. And then the other thing is that there's plenty of business interactions nowadays that happen outside the work hours. I think it's really baffling that people aren't clocking on what's happening here, whether it's a call with your boss, whether it's small details being worked out. You know, there's always something being handled outside of the business hours. If you actually think about the way that the working mentality is moved, all the small things which add up are like, it's baffling how we've just let it get to that. Like, luckily in my country, people still want to take the holiday. But perfect example is, I believe the way it still works in corporate America is you have holiday, but you're not expected to take it. If you take it, shame on you will be the feeling coming around the office towards you, especially from the higher ups. So let's actually talk about the allotted hours logic, right? Yeah, sure. When you do a 9 to 5 and you're being paid by the hour, you're getting that. You know, you clearly have this transfer of wealth or time, and you're putting a metric on it. And believe me, I used to do that. It was a terrible habit. You don't want to do it in life. Trust me, I, in a job I hated, would pay for things in my spare time, whatever I'm doing. I'll pay for things, and I'd be like, that's 2 hours of my life. Not a good way to go. Apart from that, this whole argument that you have an allotted out like amount of hours, yeah, you could argue that seems great, but what if I told you in esports you're not exactly going to clock out at 14 hours every day, right? Like, you can have days where it might actually be more like a 4-hour shift and you might inflate the numbers a little bit. I'm not saying people should do this, but the reality is, like, you aren't usually given a clear timesheet. You're just expected to follow through tasks. There are, of course, exceptions. Some do like to run on these strict kind of timesheets you fill out. But the reality is, like, what you're talking about is a situation of work smarter, not harder, right? It's this whole notion of, actually, I think there's a good book called, I think it's, was it Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's something I actually need to go read. I've heard it's actually a really good read. But the kind of notion, one of the points that puts across is this whole idea of, instead of figuring out how to spend more hours to make more money, why not spend out how to spend less hours to make more money? And the reality is, like, you become more efficient at certain cycles. And in a typical 9 to 5, you're expected to do more. And I'm not saying you can't do more in esports, but it's driven more by your passion. There are expectations on your job requirements, but the reason that a lot of us are involved in esports and do what you want is because it's a lifestyle choice that we engage with actively, right? The nature of the work is never really the same. If you talk about a bank clerk working a 9 to 5, so they might get some versatility, some variability in the tasks they're given, but the reality is what they're doing for a job doesn't really change too much. Whereas when you're talking about esports, Like I said, one day you could be just working 4 hours. Another day you could be working 16 hours. Another day you could be traveling on flights. So it's just really the travel time. And then don't get me started about when you travel out to events, this fact that, like, yes, you are there to network. Yes, you are there representing your business. But also for a lot of us, it feels like goddamn holidays. If you've ever been to an expo, you know the feeling. Like, yes, you're busy having business talks, but these people also your friends because of the way that esports is in a lot of cases, or also you're getting times to meet people who are on the entertainment side of the esports functionality, or you're getting chances to interact with games that are kept top secret, but because you're in with the right people, you get to experience those. Like this all feeds into why we do this, right? It's not like we're not going to collect a paycheck. What we do because we love it. And at the end of the day, we're gonna make money off it. Don't get me wrong, right? Like a lot of us exist as a business entity in itself, and a business's sole, like, number one priority at the end of the day, unless you are not for profit, is to make a profit. And I think, like, this whole thing that people don't understand is the way to compare this is I just gave you these examples before where people in their spare time they're doing all this research, right? When I was a program, I had to research how to use crappy system number 53 that I was never going to do anything in my spare time with or cared for. Well, guess what? Like, research in this comes in our entertainment factor. A lot of us enjoy watching tournaments, and for my job especially, I might have to watch tournaments a lot of the time, and I'm fine with that because I do enjoy doing that. Checking out new streamers, the game exos that I'm talking about, like these layers that exist and are part of your job, and you expect to stay in tap depending on your roles with these areas. Like that counts as part of your work. And yeah, we might be putting in more than 40 hours a week, but your work and your hobbies start to overlap. It's a pretty damn good feeling. It's a pretty good place to be. Now, that's not to say that we sell ourselves short. We understand what we're worth, and we like many of us. I know there's a big mistake that gets made by new people coming in. If they think they just sell themselves super low, they'll be successful. It usually doesn't work that way. It's about building relationships, building trust, and actually understanding your true value, and not selling yourself short at any stage. But the thing that people don't really seem to understand is it's also in a lot of cases, especially my job, is like personal holidays. Whenever I go off to an event, I'm still going to get my rate. I'm not going to go work for free unless it's a charity event. But it's that case of, hey, this is like a holiday. Like I still have to pinch myself when I wake up to remember what the hell I do for a job. And I think the thing that's really interesting is that while we might in some cases work crap tons of time, it's not just my job. There are plenty of jobs like this. Like don't get me wrong, there are loads behind the scene. But if you're talking about admins, if you're talking about like for players as they go home, they play the game. That's their work. That's different. But like for admins, for casters, for a lot of event-based people, they will go to an event, they will work their asses off more than your average person in a day for that event. Then the event finishes, and it's like we have a holiday. Like we just like the part that always baffles me about my work is like I go to a holiday and then I come back and I have a different kind of holiday where it's R&R. And some people like that, some people don't. I personally like to fill my spare time with things like this, personal projects, trying to like find things to inspire me to keep driving me forward. But the other thing you actually get in a lot of cases is if you compare it to when you're working just an exchange of money for service, right? Like in a retail job or a bank clergy, like there are opportunities career wise. But the reality is at the end of the day, you are not building your own brand or your own business. You're building someone else's. You're exchanging your time and your potential value for a paycheck and nothing else. That was something that drove me cuckoo when I was doing my 9 to 5 jobs. I didn't like that. The thing that I get to do in this life, and even if you're talking about people who are behind the scenes, even if you're talking about people who are like just chief financial officers or they're doing sales in this world, is like a lot of the roles that exist in esports, people get an opportunity to build themselves as a known entity, and they can then substantiate a value from that to push them forward and make sure they're actually making more than they would have previously. And it's kind of that case of like there are competitors in the traditional factor of, I work 40 hours now, I'll work 40 hours next time, but I'll earn double, right? That's how traditional jobs work. But as we just said, if you work smarter, not harder, you can get those scenarios where you might be clocking 40 hours, but how many of them are true work versus how many of them are passion projects or things you want to be involved in? I think that's the big difference that people are overlooking. The naivety around this whole 9 to 5 logic and how great the 9 to 5 life is because you get to separate it from your real one is baffling. Here's another thought for you, right? How long do you spend travel to work each day? How long? 30 minutes? Hour? When I used to do my job, it was an hour and 10 minutes. Hour and 10 minutes. Do the maths on that. Do the maths on how much time I'm losing in 1 week, then a month, then a year. A lot of esports jobs are done from home. Or if you have to go to the office, it's not all the time. You get the opportunity to work from home. We have a lot more flexibility. When you go off to events, like we said, there's a mixture of actually pleasure mixed into the business element there. Like there are so many layers that I could just keep kind of picking into. In fact, I probably will try and I want to actually revisit this with some other people in a call because I'd love to get some other opinions to give it across to you that it's not just me, a talent on screen, that's having this naive view that everything is great, and there's people behind the scenes that hate the fact they work 18-hour days, which, like, if you're working 18-hour days, that is a very, very rare occasion. Like, something severely wrong must have occurred in the last 24 hours to trigger that. Like, we stay healthy, we stay tapped into the community, and we stay doing things we love. While people who moan about, oh, I feel so bad for these esports people because all these 9 to 5 jobs, man, they've got it nice. They finish their job, they spend an hour and 30 minutes getting home to see their family. They talk to them for 2 hours and then they go to sleep to rinse, repeat the next day. What a great life those people are having. Now I need to stop here because I feel like now this sounds like I'm bragging, go, haha, you guys aren't involved in esports, your life sucks. But that's not the point. The point is that there is a reason we do what we love. There's a reason I do what I love. I knew I could have probably made more money with less risk being in the development life by this point compared to the talent life that I'm involved in. But because of my passion for esports is why I'm involved. And that's the thing. When I work, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel forced. It feels like something I want to do and I am in love with. That is why I'm in esports. And that is why you look around, many people in esports. Don't get me wrong, there's going to bound to be a few people who are just in it for the money and they will naively believe that the 9 to 5 process holds dear. But that's not the world we live in. Globalization, baby. 24/7 around the world, there's always something going on. And we like to say tapped. We like to say finger on the pulse, ready to jump any moment. But if you got some opinions on this, maybe you have some conflicting opinions, make sure you jump down in the comments and let me know them. I saw the whole complaints going up on Twitter and I had to say something. Like, don't judge this life until you've been in it and understand it. I'm not saying everyone's had the best experience. I'm not saying that esports is going to be 100% positive. There's always going to be negatives found in any career, any job. But I can assure you, sure as hell, that I and many people in this industry are having a lot more upside and a lot more fun time, a lot more enjoyment in our work than most people out there.